It seems like everyone has a podcast. And if that's what's been stopping you from starting yours, I'm here to tell you that's the exact reason why so many other people never will. If you want to talk about what your podcast could look like, join me for a 100% free private 90-minute strategy session at launchmyshow.com or click the link in the show notes. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to Big Brave Business. This is the podcast where we answer big questions reshaping entrepreneurship. I'm Sarah K. Heeter, and this is Season 3. Each week, I'm bringing on my friends, mentors, and some of the best thought leaders I know. We dive into bold, values-driven conversations about leadership, equity, ethics, and building businesses that actually make a difference. Ready to do business better? Let's dive in. Welcome back to Big Brave Business. I am here with a new friend who we met online, and I'm just excited to dig into this topic with you and to explore. But without further ado, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the podcast, Alison Rayon.
Thank you. Yeah, you got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
So what's funny is we actually connected like months ago about lots of different topics. And of the kind of 3 areas of conversation we talked about for the podcast, this isn't what I expected to talk about today. But what we were just saying before we hit record is that the universe sometimes just provides. And I think building on the conversations we've been having lately, one of the topics that you had floated related to really wellness and mindset is about redefining success. And if you've been listening to this podcast, first of all, thank you so much. But last week we did start to dig in a bit to what does that look like? What does redefining success look like? What else could it look like besides revenue? And so yeah, I want to continue that conversation, and especially as it relates to wellness and mindset. So I think that's where I want to start is like, why does that fall under kind of the category of wellness and mindset?
I think for me, it's a lot about the way that we feel in our lives, how we show up has a big reflection on anything. So, if we're in this mindset that we're not successful or we are successful, how does that change how you show up in all areas of your life, not just your business? But are you spending every evening going, I need to do more, I need to be more, which that's human nature, it feels like sometimes. But that's not a vision of success to me. That just feels like it's draining and it's exhausting and it's not great for your mental health. Then we can go down the rabbit hole of what that turns into, perhaps based on the person, if that's the dialogue that's in your head.
Interesting, because part of the reason why this has been in my mind lately is kind of, I'm not gonna overshare yet. Give me time. You know I love to overshare on this podcast, but I'm processing my own relationship with success and failure. And one of the things that definitely, one of the ways imposter syndrome has come up for me a lot in my entrepreneurship journey is that I have an idea of what it would look like to be able to say starting my business was a success. Like, I mean, I am glad I did it, but
Yeah.
what would make this decision in my life to leave the 9 to 5 world and to start my own business? What would true success look like? I've had a picture of what that is for years. And because I have not yet achieved it, and to be quite honest, sometimes I have trouble seeing progress or momentum toward that goal. When someone describes me as a successful business owner, I feel like a fraud, right? Like that's one of the ways imposter syndrome has really shown up for me is like, oh, if you only knew, if you knew how messy this really is, if you knew, right, what all the ways I'm actually falling short, if like all the list that I'm constantly keeping in my head of all the things I should be doing that I know I'm not. That is what comes up for me when somebody describes me as a success, right? And specifically uses that word. And so I'm like working on this of why can't I see myself the way, I mean, none of us can, we never can see
Yeah.
ourselves the way other people see us, but like, why can't I see myself as a success, and what's going on there, and why this kind of relentless self-flagellation of you're failing, you're failing, you're failing. Like, what's going on with all of that? So I'm curious, how do you think that shows up in someone's business? If somebody's listening and relates, like, hey, yeah, I feel that. How does that show up? How
Yeah,
does
I
that
mean,
show up?
I think it reminds me of my own story in the last year of I've taken some programs and some coaching things, and just when you're an entrepreneur, it feels like you're a little lost and you're not really sure what you should be doing, and the internet is all great for telling you what you should be doing. And I had actually landed a job, a gig, whatever you want to call it, speaking on a stage. And I was like, okay, well, that's really great. And I was told by everyone that that is really great. That is really great for my business and really great for me and everything that I want to do. And I sat with it and I planned it out. And it was all of these things. And there was something inside of me that was like, yeah, but like, I don't really actually want that. Like,
Mhm.
everyone is telling me that this is what I need to do in order to be successful. I need to get up. I need to stand on stages. I need to share my opinions. I need to do all of that. And there was something in my gut that was like, yeah, I know that maybe I'm just stubborn. Maybe that's it. But there was something in my gut. I tend to be a very intuitive person. And I was just like, there's something that doesn't feel right here. And is that successful to me? Like, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to stand on stages. I prefer people not to know who I am unless they want to work with me. So that's like the limit of it. So I think it's this part of the decisions that we make and the things that we're told to do that we need to do. And marketing is very good at doing that, of telling you where you need to be, what you need to do, how you need to be better, stronger, make more money, all of these things. It's like the world that we live in. But if it doesn't sit right with you, if there's something that's telling you like, yeah, I'm doing all this and it feels like I'm either pulling teeth, and sometimes that's because we don't have an actual system on how to do it. We're just given an idea and we don't know what to do for it. But the other part is like, there's something in my gut that's telling me this isn't right. Regardless of what people think is success or not, to me, it doesn't feel right.
This is so interesting because one of the things that we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but one of the things that I know to be true is that the world, our society, our white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalist society has berated into us, has socialized us to do or not do, really, is about trusting your gut, being able to even listen to your gut, being
Mhm.
able to even know, like, you've heard a couple of people over recent episodes talk about this, right? Sarah talked about self-trust. Shireen talked about, I don't even know what voice is mine anymore, right? We are socialized in so many ways and intentionally to not be able to listen to our own intuition. And so some people maybe are still more inclined, maybe some people were particularly raised with support in that way. Some people maybe have had to learn that as a survival mechanism or a trauma response. But like, what are some ways we can learn to listening to our gut?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think if we're talking about in the lines of success or decision making in general, let's talk about success for a moment. Is that I I believe that success is always tied to a revenue number, in the sense that there's a certain amount of money you need in order to live that lifestyle. Like,
Mhm,
that's just
mhm,
cut and dry. But the number is not what everyone tells you it should be. So
mhm,
like, people might tell you that you could make $1 million a year, you could make 100K a month, you could do all these things. Of course you could. But one, do you really want to? And does your perfect ideal life or your version of success require that amount of money in order to sustain it? And in my experience and in my personal life, no, it doesn't. I can live quite comfortably with less money than that. Would it be great to have that? Sure. But I also don't want to do the stuff that requires me to have that. So,
Mm.
like, how do you, it's like really sitting with yourself, and meditation is a big part of this practice for me, is learning to understand the signals of my body and my mind, and even the difference between my mind and my intuition, because my mind is always going to tell me that I need to do more, I need to be more, I need to make more money, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. But intuitively, it's like there's this part, this deeper voice that is almost like, it's almost like the devil and the angel on your shoulders, right? Is there's this deeper part that says, wait a minute. And I think that's just it. I think it's the wait a minute. I'm not sure. And then the decision to sit with that feeling and uncover what it is actually trying to tell you. I think most of us tend to resist that because it's uncomfortable and we're not really sure what's going to come up. But that's really the key, is like, if I have this momentary moment that's like, yeah, I'm not sure about this. I mean, one, it could be fear, which is always valid in some form, but we can always decide to take action or not action. But I think, how can you sit with something and go, you know what, is this right for me? And the beauty of that too is that even if you make a decision to say, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make these decisions, I think the beautiful part about being human and having autonomy is that we also get to change our minds. So it's like, if I go down this road and then something along the way tells me that this is no longer right, I have the option and permission to say no.
Interesting. It's so funny because, like I said, I just think the universe provides the conversations that we need when we need them. And that's been one of the beautiful things about this podcast journey and being big and brave in business and meeting people. And some are repeat guests who have been on a few times. Some are people I already have a relationship with. And so there's an amount of foundation and trust and familiarity. And then a lot of these conversations are with strangers on the internet, that it's like, hey,
Mhm.
let's like get deep and talk about all the stuff, right? And yeah, I think some of the competing things that have come up for me, of like stories that I've been carrying in my own story that I am challenging, are, first of all, that wealth is associated with sucking, like being bad. Like
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
rich
yeah.
people suck, right? Rich people are bad people. And then, first of all, how do you define a rich person? Like, at what point do you have enough wealth that you're inherently bad? That's a question. And then when you start to really examine that question, it's like, I mean, it isn't like a number, it's actually action. So could it be true that there's no amount of wealth I'm realistically going to make that would make me inherently bad? I mean, yeah, I can make that assumption. Like, there's no amount of money that's going to
Totally.
change my desire to not cause harm. Like,
Mhm.
I actively don't
Yeah.
want to extract, exploit, like treat people as transaction. Like, of course. So if I know that to be true, then that would kind of rewrite that story. And then also there's another layer of this that's kind of interesting, which is another story I've been carrying, has to do with goodness again. And it's about goodness and suffering, that like that there's some amount of suffering that is evidence of being good, and that I can prove to you I'm good. Here's my receipts, and my receipts are my scars, right?
Mhm.
And that's like really fucked up. I mean, just to be quite honest,
Yeah.
like we shouldn't have to suffer in order to be good people. Now, I am generally a proponent that like your story is more interesting when you've been through stuff. And we've all been through different things, right? It's not like a contest of what you've been through, but like learning and growing from the ways you've been challenged or frankly traumatized
Mhm.
does make you a better person. So then that's an interesting dilemma of like the cyclical thing of wealth would ease a lot of the capitalist pain of being poor.
Yeah.
And yet it's important to me to be a good person. And I'm only willing to be a good person, and being a good person requires suffering. These are some of the things that I've been like rewiring and rewriting and exploring and like sitting with. And
these like deep held beliefs that I don't want to hold on to. Like I would like to release these beliefs, but I'm just
Mhm.
curious, like what comes up for you in that? What are some of the things you've had to unlearn or rewrite, or yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can tie that specifically back to I've taught yoga for over 17 years. And in yoga philosophy, they differentiate specifically between pain and suffering. And that pain is inevitable. Everyone is going
Mhm.
to face pain, whether that's physical, emotional, mental pain at some point in their life.
Mhm.
But however, on the flip side of that is that suffering is optional. Like we have the choice to move through and sit with pain and the discomfort of it, or we have this resistance to it, which inevitably creates suffering. And I think there's a clear distinction there for me that I've embraced over the years of like, I know when I decide to go down a rabbit hole and think, oh, poor me, I'm not good enough, all the imposter syndrome, all of these things, is that I know that I'm doing that to myself. Because even if people are out there saying that about me, that's them. I still have that mindset where it's like, that's them, this is me, it's okay. Because it doesn't change who I am at my core. If somebody's going to talk shit about me, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So it's like if I'm going to obsess over it, I'm creating my own suffering. And I have a choice to accept it and acknowledge it and be uncomfortable with it because there's always discomfort in growth. I think that's the big part is that we have to be willing to get uncomfortable. And as an entrepreneur, I think that is the biggest lesson in growing a business is you have to be willing to get uncomfortable because one day you are meeting all your marks. You've got clients coming in, you got all this stuff happening, and then the next day people fire you and out of the blue and they don't want to work with you or no leads are coming in or all of these things or you're so busy and the work that I do with people is implement systems in their business to free up their time. It's like we get to this point where we're so overwhelmed and we just sit in this discomfort without being allowing ourselves to suffer in it without making the steps even if they're uncomfortable to move forward.
Yeah, interesting. So I love this, the dichotomy of pain and suffering. I think that's something that I'm going to take away from this conversation and really continue to spend some time sitting with. I think that's so
Mhm.
important. And it's also really interesting to me, again, to bring this back to like wellness, how wellness is related, because I think engaging with kind of nervous system work, trauma informed personal development, and hopefully things like this podcast, the conversations we have here, and yeah, like practicing yoga. I think like engaging in these kinds of things are so helpful for being able to challenge some of the internalized dialogue, internalized systems, etc. So, okay, some of the things that we've talked about, and you touched on this too in recent weeks about defining success, we have to be resourced. We have to be. Like, we live in a capitalist society. Life
Yep.
costs a certain dollar amount. What life you want to live, to your point, costs your own dollar amount, right? People's
Mhm.
what life they want to live and what that dollar amount costs, especially compared to where and when they're living. Like, that
Yeah.
number is going to vary. And so your number is your number. That is a real thing. That's a
Yeah.
real number that exists and it's a real metric. But beyond that metric, I have been collecting notes of some ways that I am trying to start practicing, exploring the ways that I already am successful, and
Mhm.
also like what I truly, how would I continue to measure whether I'm successful, like moving forward,
Mhm.
that are not just like a revenue number or a profitability number.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, if you want to start off with some things and maybe we can go back and forth and talk about some different things. Oh, before you do, I'm also going to add some of the things that have already come up on this podcast that we've touched on are time and location freedom. That was a big one
Mhm.
that we talked about last week that my guest Elaine mentioned for her. Those are really big indicators of success. Another one we touched on, although I definitely plan to do a whole episode on this in the future, is about fun, being able to have fun in your life, in your business. And so those are some things that have already come up. But other than that, like what are some ways you measure
Oh
success?
man, the time and freedom thing is like I mean, being a systems person is like my life and my world. The reason I became an entrepreneur was for time and calendar freedom. And I love that I can be able to take a 2-hour walk with my dog at whatever time of the day that I want, when I want. I mean, of course I got to book it around meetings, but still there's this element of being able to do that. I think the other success is learning and becoming better with my own personal boundaries. So, personal boundaries like in my family and friends, but I think that also correlates to my business and being really firm in order to protect that time and calendar freedom. I'm very clear about what those boundaries are.
I think one of the things that is coming up of my whole list is my business is the vehicle that affords the things, the criteria, the success criteria. It isn't the measurement of success on its own. And that's like a new step forward for me. Because I think like when we look at things like revenue as the measurement, then that's the business is directly success or not. Like it's a success
Mm-hmm.
metric or it's not. If we're measuring success, like what would a successful life look like in general? Then being an entrepreneur is what affords me the things that matter, right? And that
Yep.
measure whether or not I'm successful. And so for you, being an entrepreneur gives you more opportunity for time freedom and calendar freedom than a 9 to 5 ever could, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. And like
Yeah.
that's amazing. And yeah, I think so a friend of mine posed this to me, what I'm being, not what I'm doing. And I've really been processing that because the examples she gave about what's important to her of what she's being versus what she's doing is being grounded and being at peace. Now, I think both of those are really important. And in fact, on the call with her, when she shared that with me, I literally realized like my legs were kind of crossed in a weird position as we were talking about this. And when she said that, I immediately like uncrossed and put both feet flat on the floor, like, no, I want to feel that. I want to be grounded
Yeah.
and at peace
Yeah.
right now. Like, yeah, that matters. But what's interesting is it also posed this like added question to me of what is important to me to be? Like what does successful being look like? Like what would some of the things? And so I came up with this little list, some things that are important to me, and this is not like this is what I go off of. It's not a checklist. These are just things I'm processing like in real
Yeah.
time, and then we happen to have this call scheduled. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, so some things that are important to me to be honest. Am I being honest? As with myself, with the people in my life. And when I find that as a pattern that I'm not being honest about things with myself or with other people or whatever, like that's a pretty big indicator of like being out of alignment. Something's going wrong, right? And then
Yeah.
it gives me also immediate action items, by the way, which is really important for those of us overachievers to be able to see like, no, then I want to change that, right? Also, am I happy? Like, what a
Mhm.
question. Am I
Mhm.
happy? I mean, because truly, like, I have been kind of beating myself up with this sense of failure for years, maybe all the way back into childhood. And the reality is, like, in at least in this chapter of my life, and I would argue for most chapters of my life, but in this chapter of my life right now, am I happy? Like, the answer is a resounding hell yes. Like,
Mhm.
so, so, so happy, happier than I've ever been. And how could I think I'm failing?
Yeah.
Chapter where I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I mean, that makes no sense, right? So that's a huge one. Am I safe? And
Mm.
that's a question, right? Because like safety isn't necessarily, or a lack of safety isn't necessarily caused by you. So to measure it as success or failure, if you're not safe, that doesn't mean you failed. But if I am safe, I can totally use that as a measurement of like, look what this life that I've built for myself has afforded
Mhm.
me. It has afforded me a level of safety and security, right? Okay, I have a few more. Am I learning? That's really important to me. That's a huge value of mine. Am I learning? And I think what a great reframe for the ways I've maybe berated myself about failing in the past. Like, instead of the ways I'm falling short, it's like, what am I learning? I'm learning so much all the time, every day. It's part of why I love having this podcast. Am I challenging myself? I would say that also matters. Like if I feel challenged, but piggybacking off of that, am I resting? Like true good rest,
Mhm.
right? And Elaine posed that last week. Like, are you actually getting rest when you rest?
Mhm. Mhm.
Am I playing? Am I helping? Am I in integrity? And then one of my favorites, and I want to like kind of throw it back to you and see what you're thinking, what's coming up for you. Am I in good company? I think this
Mhm.
is such a good measurement of what I would say of how far I've come, because I can look back at previous chapters of my life, people maybe through work environments, maybe through friendships that were with people who weren't great friends, maybe family members that are toxic or harmful, maybe even relationships of like romantic relationships of my past, physical intimacy relationships in my
Mhm.
past. Like where I am today, I am so fucking proud of the company that I keep. I am so proud of the community that I've built myself and who I'm surrounded by and these relationships in my life. So like, yeah, what a huge metric of
Mhm.
success of like surrounding myself by good company. So that's some of the stuff on my list, but what's coming up for you, especially of like, what's it important to you to be?
I mean, first of all, I have to say I really love the perspective shift. I think I'm usually really good at that, but I didn't even think of that. So I appreciate that you pointed that out. Is this perspective shift from like capitalism and how we identify ourselves based on our roles that we play. And it's so easy to fall into that dynamic of like even answering the question of who am I? Like,
Yeah.
who am I at my core? And not what you do for a living, not how you help people, not that you're a mom, a wife, or whatever. Who are you? And it's such a challenging question to answer because we're so used to labeling ourselves that I loved all those words that you shared because I think that truly also defines who we are, who I am. And in my learning and working with people, especially in the wellness industry, and seeing people who at times can be at their most vulnerable. I don't know why that happens in wellness spaces, but it does. People feel safe. Is that we all kind of at our core want the same thing. And it's like, I would resonate with happy. I mean, I would say, am I loved? Do I have people to love in return? I think that's important. Do I laugh? Like, is there joy? Is
Big
there
ones.
opportunities to laugh so hard you're crying and then you don't even remember why you were laughing? Like those are the best is you can't even remember and you can't stop. I'm a big I love a pause. I just love the opportunity to pause and take everything in. Or can I just sit here and take a deep breath and observe the natural world that we live in? Like, can I sit on the deck and mindfully drink my coffee and let it just be drinking coffee? Like, no phone, no internet, just I always age myself because I'm like, I'd love to be an adult again now, like what I've learned now, but back when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s and like not have cell phones and not have the internet and be able to just have this time and space to, I mean, of course, there's always things going on for everyone. There always has been, but it's like, how can I carve out these moments where I am literally disconnected from the internet and from that side of the world where I read a book or I go for a walk or I work in the garden. And these little simple moments, I think, really are what create the joy and what life is really all about.
This is so interesting because I'm already like kind of jumping ahead to thinking about how that applies to running a business. So I want to come back to that.
Mhm.
But before I do, I want to also say one of the other things I had on my notes already, and I feel like it really goes well with what you were just saying, is what lights me up about my life.
Mhm.
And also the question, what lights me up about my day? Because day by day, it's the little moments, like you were just
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
but also my life. I mean, my life is so full of laughter. Like that is really, that's such a good one to call out. I wrote it down. That is such a good one to call out because it is it adds so much value to what's important to me. So yeah, what lights me up about my life? What lights me up about my day? That's a good question for like measuring success at any given point, right? And then another one that my same friend told me that I loved, so I have it in my notes as well. What does success look like today? And I love this because her words were, this actually takes the pressure off of the big picture, those big goals that it's like, oh, I don't feel like I've made enough progress. I don't feel like I've made enough momentum. And like some of those really, really big things, that big picture, that big gap. There is no action I'm going to take today
Mhm.
that's going to solve that gap.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There are actions over time that if I
Mhm.
made those actions every day, that
Mhm.
might lead to that. But today, there is nothing I can do that's going to
Mhm.
just close that gap and make those big things different, right?
Yep.
So, what would success look like today? Takes
Mhm.
all that pressure off my shoulders immediately. Like I just feel my whole body just physically relax. Like my shoulders come down, and I'm like, yeah, wait, I don't have to carry the weight of like
Mm.
8 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, like the big picture, right? I need just to think about like, how would I measure success today? And also what you need in any given day varies, right? Like if you wake up and you're under the weather, then or you have an injury and so you're in physical pain. Those are really good, easy, like
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit indicators of like that day, what is it that you need in order to be successful, right? You need to heal. Like do that. And that can vary by day. Like maybe this specific day I'm craving connection with my partner. Maybe this specific day I'm like, oh, I need my girls. Like I need
Mhm.
my girlfriends around me. Maybe today I need to be really feel really, really productive around the house, or I need to feel really productive in my business. What's going to make today feel like a success is I'm going to get a bunch of client work done, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
So I think day by day that varies, and being able to have that, like, hang on, take the pressure off your shoulders, like
Mhm.
literally instant relief, physical relief.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we spend so much time not being in the present moment is part of the challenge, is that it's hard to deem success because we're always thinking about where we're going to be 2 weeks down the road, or where we should be 2 weeks down the road, or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. It's like even you go for a job interview or you talk to somebody and they're like, "What are your 5-year plans?" I don't know. I don't know. Like, I can't think that far ahead. Because things are going to change. Things are going to ebb and flow as you go through that. There is a practice in yoga philosophy called santosha, which is translated to contentment. And for me, success is tied to contentment a lot. It's not about necessarily this, because success almost feels like, and maybe this is just some more learning that I have to do, but the word success feels like this overarching thing that I always have to be striving for. And for me, there's spaciousness in contentment, in allowing everything to be as it is like allowing us to have the full experience of being human, whether that's happiness or sadness, or things went your way or things didn't go your way, or I'm sick and I need to rest. Is like, can I find a little bit of ease, like you said, in the fact that this is what's happening right now? And maybe it's the opportunity to look at it and go, can I find a little bit of joy in that moment? Or if I can't find the joy, can I at least just be content with that understanding of impermanence, and then nothing ever stays the same? And that's the nature of life, is that nothing ever stays the same. Is that how can I be okay or comfortable, or even perhaps find a little bit of gratitude for what I'm with right now?
I want to use some of our remaining time, at least, to bring this back to how does this show up for us in business? Because a
Mhm.
lot of what I'm trying to do here is disconnect my definition of success from my business. That is true. And
Yeah.
this is a business podcast.
Yeah.
So I know that is what you came here for. And that's what I'm also like, it's important to me. So how does this connect back? So when one thing that kind of came up for me when you were describing several minutes ago about the little moments, laughter in particular, joy, the you mentioned like reading, like these kinds of things that come up. One of the things that came up for me, easy one, laughing. If laughter is important, if the little moments are important, if loving people and feeling loved is important, all those are all things that can show up, number one, in your copy, and number two, in your relationships with your clients, right?
Yes.
Like those are all things that can show up there. What are some other ways, some of the stuff that we've been talking about, like how does that show up? How does it show up in our offers? How does it show up in our sales? How does it show up with our clients? All the things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think a big part of it is the question of like, why did you start your business in the first place? There's usually a reason, and sometimes it's tied to not wanting to work a 9 to 5 anymore, wanting time calendar freedom. Maybe you're a mom and you wanted to do something part-time or whatever it is. There's a reason that you started that business in the first place. And when you started that business, there was some version of you that had a vision of what your picture of success looked like with this business. And my thing is going back to that original view, even though they change, it changes just like everything. It'll ebb and flow and grow and shift as your business grows. And then looking at like, what little thing can I do today to move me closer towards that vision? Because often, so working in systems background is like, people come in and they want to overhaul or streamline or automate their whole business. And I'm like, whoa. Like, one, that takes time. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight. Like, things are not just going to change and go your way overnight. That'd be great if that was true. But it's like, what is the thing that is causing you the most discomfort that we could streamline or automate or build boundaries around or structure around so that it did feel like it was successful to you? And I think pinpointing those things so that you do have those little moments every day of like, okay, you know what? I know that I spend an hour every day doing this and it's not something I enjoy, but it still feels something that I can manage and move forward with. And to me, that's a success. I checked it off the list. I did it today. Like, and I think it's especially true when it's stuff you hate doing, is like, how can I find the little wins or the little success of actually doing the shit I hate doing?
This is interesting because when I think about why I started my business, and you've probably heard this before, I've never really done it, to be honest, but I've definitely heard the framework. I know it's a thing. I know why it's a thing, which is like the 7 whys, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
continuing to ask why 7 times to get deeper and deeper. And what's really funny is at first, for me, when you said, why'd you start this business in the first place? Like, yes, part of it was, well, I didn't want to go into the job market and I didn't want to go work for somebody else. And I didn't want to work for somebody else. I didn't want to, pour my time, talent, effort, bandwidth into building someone else's vision, frankly, that I don't care about, doing work I don't like for people I don't like, with people I don't like,
Mm-hmm.
for most of my waking hours, and then come home and have nothing left to give to the people who matter the most and the things
Mm-hmm.
that matter the most, right? Like that is true,
Yep.
right? I've said that for
Yep.
years, said that on this podcast before. But also like what initially came up when you first posed that of like, why'd you start this business in the first place? Honestly, like I was exhausted and I needed to make more money. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
can I make more money here? I hope so. And I would say like one of the most sustaining whys for me was to make money. And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that I think, though, if we play that kind of 7-layer why question, you don't even have to go 7 layers to just say, why? Why do you want more money? Like, what is it that
Yeah,
you're
but
actually doing?
I would see, but in listening to you, I would pull up the other word you said. So you also said exhausted.
Mhm.
And my question to you would be like, do you feel exhausted now?
Not most of the time.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Which is great because then
Yeah.
that see like if we can always pick the money avenue, but
Yeah.
there's always a feeling or something else that's tied to it. So whatever, regardless of what it is in your business or growing or vision or whatever it is, there's always an emotion tied to, yes, a dollar amount or something, or a feeling or an experience that we're trying to change. And my automatic question is like, are you still feeling that way? And if the answer is yes, then one, that's how systems can help you. And two, if the answer is no, then like, great. that's success.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. And yeah, I think that's deeper. We could probably spend a whole 45-minute episode on the exhaustion
Yeah.
of today,
Yeah.
right? In fact, go back a few weeks and listen to the episode with Siobhan about why everything feels hard to, like, showing up to sell feels hard when the world's on fire. Like,
Yeah.
it's exhausting. Everything's exhausting, right?
Yeah.
So we could explore that. But work specifically, is that exhausting? No. For me, it's not. And I do think that's an interesting question. Like, if the answer is yes,
Mhm.
but it gives you, again, as an overachiever, I like action
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
So if you can say, like, where is it exhausting? Yeah, that gives you an opportunity to explore, like, what could you do differently? Or maybe you bring in a pro to help you
Yeah.
see where you
Yeah.
could cut that exhaustion, right? Like, what the work you do is with systems.
Yeah.
So that's
I
so
mean, I think there's
interesting.
always this element of like, we're never 100%. Like you said, there's still moments that you're exhausted, the state of the world, all these things. Like, we're all just living in this state of exhaustion, anyways. But like,
Mhm.
does your business itself exhaust you? And it's like, if it still lights you up, then that's fantastic. Like, that's successful. And like you said, if not, then how do we get you back into that?
Right.
How do you get yourself back into that place? And maybe it's finding those moments of joy and laughter outside of it, or implementing more boundaries or more structure into
Right.
what your business is, so you have
Eat
it
all
within
of the
that too.
above. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So interesting. I'm
It
thinking
can be
about
exhausting to be a human being. It's
Yeah, it is.
exhausting to be
Yeah,
human.
it is. I'm thinking about some of the other stuff we listed, what, like, that big list that I listed off of values of when I reflected on, like, what's important to me to be. So, like, honest, am I being honest with myself and with others? Like, that's something I can explore in my business, right? In my marketing and my client relationships. I mean, hopefully the answer is yes. For me, it's been true, but people get put into really shitty situations ethically, right? And so, like, if your ethics are compromised, in integrity was another thing on my list. Like, if your ethics or your integrity is compromised, that is an opportunity to be like, hang on, like, something needs to change. Am I happy? Right. That's kind of related to, does my business exhaust me? I feel like those two things are
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
almost two sides of the same coin. Am I safe? Are you safe in your business? Are you safe with the people that you're working with? And that kind of takes me into, like, am I in good company? Like, who are you working with? Who are you collaborating with? Who are your clients? Who are you hiring? Who are your mentors? Who are your role models? Who are you following on social media? What podcasts are you listening to? Right? Like, are you in good company? Are you surrounded by people who make you feel proud of who they are, honest, happy, safe, and integrity? Like, are you learning? Are you challenging yourself? I can just see how all of this shows up, right, in, like, the way you run your business. And if I can rewrite my story of what success means based on this criteria, then I get to celebrate my success every day the way the
Mhm.
people who love me are celebrating my success every day, instead
Beautiful.
of just focusing on the gap. So that feels huge to me.
Mm.
Hopefully, it means something to you listening. I know that I would love to hear what tension you're experiencing, what's coming up for you. What is your story with success? What is your story with, like, success equating to money? What stuff have you been unlearning? What are some ways you're redefining success? I want to hear that. I know Allison wants to hear it. So you
Mm.
are enthusiastically invited into our inboxes or DMs or whatever to have this conversation. We'd love to chat with you. And so, of course, all of Allison's and my information, links, etc., are going to be in the description of the episode. So you can definitely come and connect with us and find us that way. Allison, thank you so, so much for joining me and, like, meeting me here where I needed you today. Thank you. I
Mm.
appreciate that. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I love this conversation. And to you listening, thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you right here next week.